January 22, 2024, News Report 1. In the Philippines, a recent report indicates that on January 12, Chinese Coast Guard ships approached the waters near Huangyan Island and took action against a Filipino fishing vessel engaged in shellfish harvesting. The Chinese Coast Guard used warning signals to drive away Filipino fishermen and prevented them from leaving shallow waters. The Chinese Coast Guard demanded that the Filipino fishermen return the harvested shellfish to the sea before allowing them to leave. The group of Filipino fishermen planned to return to their home port on January 22. The Philippine Coast Guard will conduct a detailed inquiry, and the Philippine Congress has condemned the actions of the Chinese Coast Guard on January 22. Simultaneously, the U.S. ambassador to the Philippines, Carlson, recently met with Philippine Defense Secretary Teodoro to discuss defense cooperation between the two countries. Carlson stated that the U.S. would continue joint patrols with the Philippines and take all necessary measures to ensure the safety of the Filipino people. It is noteworthy that on January 4, the U.S. and the Philippines conducted a two-day joint patrol in the South China Sea. News Report 2. On January 20, an article titled, Mainland Studies Expanding Termination of ECFA Tariff Reduction on Products, was published by China's National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference's official newspaper, People's Political Consultative Daily. The article reveals that China's Ministry of Commerce plans to cancel tariff preferences for 34 agricultural and fishery products covered by the Cross-Strait Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement, ECFA, this month. ECFA is a bilateral economic agreement between Taiwan and mainland China, initially proposed by former Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou in 2009 and signed in June 2010 to promote economic cooperation by reducing or eliminating tariffs on certain Taiwanese products. On December 21, the Ministry of Commerce announced the suspension of tariff reductions for 12 petrochemical products. On January 9, the Ministry of Commerce further announced the consideration of ending tariff reductions for agricultural and fishery, machinery, auto parts, textiles, and other products covered by ECFA. Chinese analysts suggest that this move aims to exert pressure on Taiwan's leadership, particularly before the May 20 inauguration of President Lai Ching-te, and represents a strategy of maximum pressure. Additionally, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense reported on January 21 that 4 PLA fighter jets and 4 warships were active around the Taiwan Strait, with 6 Chinese balloons spotted in the vicinity, 5 in Keelung in the north, and 1 in Pingdong. In response, Taiwan deployed Tian-Kung-3 air defense missiles to Pingdong. Military experts note that China's use of balloons to harass Taiwan incurs lower costs, while military jet provocations consume engine life but are unsustainable. News Report 3. On January 18, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security conducted a surprise search of the U.S. subsidiary of Qingdao Sanxiang, named Harco Manufacturing Group, LLC. The search was related to allegations of tax evasion against Harco. Qingdao Sanxiang is a Chinese automotive parts manufacturer that acquired Harco in 2015. The Department of Homeland Security stated that products exported to the U.S. by Qingdao Sanxiang are subject to a 25% tariff, but to reduce tax costs, the company shifted some production to Thailand. In September of the previous year, the U.S. House Committee on Communist China Issues wrote to the Department of Homeland Security, citing publicly available documents from Qingdao Sanxiang, accusing the company of openly engaging in trade fraud by transferring capacity to Thailand, causing catastrophic impacts on U.S. manufacturers. The Department of Homeland Security subsequently announced an investigation. In April 2022, the U.S. federal court fined 6 U.S. companies a total of $1.83 billion, all of which were associated with Lu Zhongtian, founder of aluminum giant China Zhongwang Holdings Limited. The companies exported 220,000 aluminum pallets to the U.S. from 2011 to 2014, evading $1.8 billion in tariffs. The report notes that behind the fines imposed on these companies may lie political motivations, but investigations into the specific circumstances are ongoing. News Report 4. Bloomberg reports that BlackRock, the U.S. asset management company, is selling its office building in Shanghai at a 30% discount. BlackRock acquired 2 office buildings in Shanghai's Putuo district for 1.2 billion renminbi in 2018, with a total floor area of 27,000 square meters. BlackRock has decided to sell one of the Shanghai office buildings due to a decline in rent to a near-decade low in the last quarter. With an expected further decline in rent due to increased office supply this year, BlackRock is compelled to sell. The report also mentions that BlackRock's investments in China are facing significant challenges, as the company holds a substantial amount of Chinese concept stocks, including Tencent and Meituan. With continuous declines in the Chinese and Hong Kong stock markets, BlackRock has incurred substantial losses. This trend indicates that many asset management companies that initially invested in the Chinese market are now leaving due to significant losses. News Report 5. Bloomberg reports that the European Union plans to unveil a comprehensive economic security plan on January 24, consisting of 5 measures. These measures include strengthening regulatory coordination for foreign direct investment, export controls, supporting research in dual-use technologies, enhancing research security, and controlling the leakage of sensitive technologies. The goal of the plan is to reshape Europe as a global force and use the EU's single market to resist coercive actions from China, Russia, and even the United States. Domlovsky, the EU Commissioner for Trade, stated that geopolitics is more confrontational than in the past few decades, and efforts must be made to protect sensitive technologies, businesses, and assets to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. This indicates that the EU, in the face of global geopolitical changes, is actively taking economic security measures to ensure its independence and security in technology and the economy. News Report 6. On January 21, Israeli forces engaged in intense clashes with Hamas in the southern Gaza Strip, conducting airstrikes and artillery attacks concentrated in the city of Khan Yunis. The central areas of conflict include Nasser Hospital and Ammar Hospital. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, in a video statement on the same night, rejected Hamas' proposed conditions for ceasefire negotiations. Hamas demanded the release of all hostages in exchange for ending the conflict, but Netanyahu firmly refused, stating that agreeing to this condition would allow Hamas to continue existing and governing. Netanyahu emphasized that accepting these conditions would lead to the unnecessary sacrifice of Israeli soldiers, and the risk of the next October 7 would be unavoidable. He further stated that only through achieving a complete victory could Hamas be thoroughly eliminated, ensuring the safe return of all hostages. Netanyahu also stressed that Gaza must be demilitarized and fully controlled by Israel. Additionally, it was reported that Israel conducted airstrikes on Damascus, the capital of Syria, on January 20, resulting in the deaths of the head and deputy head of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Quds force in Syria. News Report 7. In recent days, a series of accidents in China has resulted in casualties. In Xiong County, Yunnan Province, a landslide occurred at 6 a.m. on January 22, causing 8 deaths and 18 households, 40 people, missing. The incident happened in Hexin Village and Heping Village, both located at the foot of the mountain, with over 100 households and 500 residents, mainly of Yi ethnicity, relying on corn and potatoes for their livelihood. Residents reported that the landslide occurred while everyone was sleeping, producing a loud noise similar to an earthquake. It was the first time such a large-scale landslide occurred in the village. Locals believe the landslide is related to nearby coal mining, as cracks had appeared in the village a month before the incident. The local government admitted receiving complaints about house cracks due to coal mining. Moreover, on January 20, a dust explosion occurred in Changzhou City, Jiangsu Province, caused by Shinrong Metal Company, resulting in 8 deaths and 8 injuries. Photos showed shattered glass in the factory building, deformed window frames, damaged walls, and nearby factory roofs blown off, with building materials scattered. A dust explosion refers to a typical safety incident where metal dust ignites when reaching a certain concentration in the air, triggered by sparks. In addition, a fire broke out at the Yingkai School in Fang County, Nanyang City, Hunan Province, on January 19, causing the death of 13 students. Investigation revealed that the dormitory was converted from classrooms, with windows additionally secured with anti-theft nets. At the time of the fire, over 30 third-grade primary school students were in the dormitory. Some students escaped through a small opening under the anti-theft net. The room door was locked, and the 13 deceased students were found lying in bed. This incident gained attention on social media, criticizing the inappropriate response of the local propaganda department to the fire. Additionally, the China Meteorological Administration predicts that the first cold wave of the year will sweep across the country on January 23, with the 0-degree line reaching Guangxi and Guangdong. The cold wave is expected to last until January 24 to 25, and temperatures will gradually rise. Citizens are advised to stay warm and ensure traffic safety. News Report 8. The New York Times reports that the United States has experienced severe snowstorms over the past week, resulting in 72 deaths. On January 15, a man in Tennessee died after falling from the roof while clearing accumulated snow. On January 16, a car accident in Pennsylvania led to the deaths of 5 women and the driver of a tractor-trailer. On January 17, a power line pole in Oregon broke due to strong winds, causing the power lines to touch a car and electrocute 3 people inside. Tennessee recorded 27 deaths, including causes such as hypothermia, falls, and traffic accidents. In Seattle, Washington, 5 people died from freezing within 4 days, mostly among the homeless population. In Kentucky, 5 people died. The U.S. Weather Department predicts that the impact of the winter storm will continue until January 24 and 25. The cold weather conditions have led to various fatal accidents, posing a serious safety threat to residents across the United States. News Report 9. A report released on January 22 by the China Real Estate Research Institute indicates that as of December of the previous year, the number of properties listed for auction in China reached 800,000 units, a year-on-year increase of 220,000 units, representing a 36% increase. However, the actual transaction volume was only 150,000 units, an increase of 20,000 units from the listed volume, indicating insufficient market buying and selling momentum. The total transaction amount was 300 billion, remaining flat compared to 2022. Among the auctioned properties, residential listings amounted to 390,000 units, an increase of 110,000 units, accounting for 49% of the total listed auction properties. However, the transaction volume accounted for only 25%, reflecting a 5.5% year-on-year decline. In terms of regional distribution, Sichuan, Guangdong, Hunan, Chongqing, Jiangsu, and other areas became heavily affected areas for auction properties. The report points out that the main sources of auction properties are enterprises and individuals. It was reported last year that one reason for the increasing number of auction properties is that more residents cannot afford housing loans, either forced or voluntarily defaulting. This trend has posed challenges to the auction property market. News Report 10. Reuters reports that on January 21, Florida Governor DeSantis announced his withdrawal from the Republican presidential primaries. The Republican presidential primaries now have only 2 candidates remaining, former President Trump and U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Haley. DeSantis stated that he feels he cannot win in the election, and since most Republican voters want to give Trump another chance, he decided to support Trump. He explicitly stated his non-support for Haley, believing she represents the old-school Republicans who support corporatism. The second round of the Republican presidential primaries will take place on January 23 in New Hampshire. Polls show that DeSantis' supporters in New Hampshire lag far behind Trump and Haley. After DeSantis withdrew, Trump's support rose from 50% to 54%, while Haley's support increased from 39% to 41%. The situation is undergoing some changes. News Report 11. Shenzhen Football Club officially announced its dissolution on January 22 through a statement on Weibo. The statement pointed out that Shenzhen could no longer sustain a football club, and due to severe historical debt problems, the club could not continue its journey in football leagues. Shenzhen City Football Club is one of China's traditional football clubs, founded in 1994. It has won the Chinese Super League (CSL) championship and reached the semi-finals of the AFC Champions League. In 2016, Shenzhen Investment Holdings took over the club, bringing in well-known domestic and international players, leading to a period of resurgence for the Shenzhen team. However, in the past 2 years, the China real estate crisis erupted, putting Shenzhen Investment Holdings in financial trouble, and Shenzhen Football Club faced serious debt issues. The club has not paid salaries for 20 months, and most players have only received 1/3 of their contracted salaries. On January 17, the Chinese Football Association announced the second batch of clubs that completed debt repayment, and Shenzhen and Dalian teams were not included in the list. This indicates that these two teams are still unable to participate in competitions due to wage arrears. Prior to this, Dalian announced its dissolution on January 17. This incident reflects the current economic situation in China. Despite the Chinese government claiming a 5.2% economic growth last year, the dissolution of football clubs due to debt problems reveals some of the challenges faced by certain industries.